Today, Bitcoin wrestles the $88,000 mark. The Senate confirms President Trump's pick to lead the CFTC. And Andrew Fierman of Chainalysis breaks down the surge in North Korean crypto hacks in 2025. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Brandon Gomez. Crypto prices mixed this morning as we head into the weekend. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin was little changed from 24 hours before. Ether rose nearly 1% to $29.66, and XRP fell around 1%. Now, for the week, crypto markets broadly underperformed large-cap U.S. equities. The S&P 500 index was flat, while Bitcoin dipped by 2.5%, Ether by more than 3.5%, and XRP by more than 5.5%. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. The Senate has confirmed Michael Selig, the chief counsel for the SEC Crypto Task Force, to lead the CFTC. In a vote along party lines yesterday, Selig was installed as the permanent chairman of the agency. Nearly a year after the departure of the previous chair, Rostin Benham, Selig was President Trump's second nominee for the position after former CFTC Commissioner Brian Quintes faced pushback from the industry. Yesterday's confirmation vote comes as acting CFTC Chair Caroline Pham is leaving the agency to take a role at MoonPay. Next, a markup for crypto market structure is slated for next month. That's according to White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs, who said the schedule was confirmed on a call with Senator Tim Scott, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and Senator John Boozman, chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee. Hopes that the bill would be passed this year faded after the lengthy government shutdown. And earlier this week, a spokesperson for the Senate Banking Committee told us Chair Tim Scott and the committee have made strong progress with Democrats on bipartisan digital asset market structure legislation and signaled it would be finalized in the new year. Last, Coinbase is suing 3 states over attempts to regulate prediction markets, days after announcing it would offer them on its own app. The firm's chief legal officer, Paul Graywall, took to X to announce Coinbase filed lawsuits against Connecticut, Michigan, and Illinois to confirm prediction markets fall under the jurisdiction of the CFTC. Now, earlier this month, Connecticut issued cease and desist orders to crypto firms and prediction market platforms for allegedly offering sports wagers without a license. Graywall argues prediction markets are fundamentally different from sportsbook, being that they serve as neutral exchanges that match buyers and sellers, whereas casinos win only if you lose. Just this week, Coinbase unveiled a slew of new products, including prediction markets, in an effort to become a one-stop trading app for its users. All right, for our main story, a new report out from Chainalysis finds that a whopping $3.5 billion were stolen from the crypto industry in 2025, with North Korean hackers responsible for most of the thefts. Crypto World's Jordan Smith spoke with Andrew Fierman, head of national security intelligence at Chainalysis, about the numbers.
So you're out with this new look at the 2025 crypto crime report, and I think the standout here really is the North Korean element. Of the 3.4 billion in crypto stolen, the DPRK accounts for a whopping $2 billion of that. What's behind that surge?
So certainly the Bybit hack back in March accounted for 1.5 billion of that 2 billion in total. But what that really shows is that North Korea is taking a targeted focus on identifying bigger targets and larger caches of funds in order to exploit rather than going the route of smaller attacks. And so when we're talking about $2 billion for the North Korean regime in a single year, that's a pretty significant haul when it comes to cryptocurrency hacks.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think the other thing that stood out to me was the size of these hacks. The report mentions that they're 1,000 times larger than before. Can you talk about how much of that is driven from the fact that there's more adoption of crypto and how much of that is driven by hackers being more skilled in the space?
It's absolutely a combination of both. We're talking about adoption in crypto. That means there's more assets sitting on chain, which means there's more opportunity for services to be exploited by bad actors. But it also means that North Korea is just being North Korea, which is finding new mechanisms by which to steal cryptocurrency, steal funds to fund the regime and their weapons of mass destruction program.
Let's talk about one of the ways that they're going about stealing these funds, because you mentioned the act of impersonating workers inside of crypto services. How does this year compare to previous years in terms of just how common this is becoming? Because we saw it among some of the largest crypto players that we were talking about hackers impersonating workers, but just how has this trend moved this year?
So it's absolutely a combination of the North Korean IT workers, which, for those of you who may not know, these are North Korean individuals, often operating whether within North Korea or outside, pretending to be individuals not based in North Korea. And they may have the real skills to be an IT worker working for your company, but certainly they are not doing it for good purposes. And the ultimate goal is bringing revenue back to the regime, whether through simply just the salary, but more nefariously for the sake of exploiting the platform and stealing cryptocurrency. That being said, that is just one of the aspects. There's also social engineering, which is simply clicking on the wrong link, and also a new attack vectors that we saw in the Bybit hack, which is going after the supply chain and third-party vendors and gaining access via them.
In terms of conversations you're having with companies that are sort of trying to combat these hacks, what has that looked like in terms of efforts? Because yes, we have the people impersonating IT workers outside of North Korea. You mentioned some of the traditional methods. What are the conversations you're having with these larger firms and how they're trying to counteract to these efforts?
The reality is it takes a whole of ecosystem effort. This isn't just adding one security feature and then you're set and protected. North Korea is always looking for a new vulnerability to exploit. And so this is technological, this is programmatic, this is procedural, and there's a human element to it as well. So when advising and informing these institutions and entities, it really takes a compliance and security as a whole firm approach in order to ensure that they aren't susceptible to the next North Korean hack.
One other piece of data that I want to mention in this is what seems like a bright spot to me, which is a decline in personal wallets being compromised. Can you explain that trend? Because I think a lot of people are worried about their own personal crypto wallets, especially after things like the kidnapping we saw in New York over crypto funds. So what's going on with that number there?
While the total volume has gone down, the number of personal wallet attacks has not. So I think the important thing here is that as crypto adoption continues, personal security and understanding how to protect your assets is really important. Certainly going online and bragging about how much money you've made in crypto makes you susceptible to things like wrench attacks. And the reality of it is that increased understanding of how to secure yourself, just like to have two-factor authentication on your bank account. Having those same security mechanisms built into those who adopt and own crypto is really important.
One other larger question I guess I have is around quantum computing, and maybe this is a ways off, but there is a concern among those in the space that advancements in quantum compute could pose a risk to security on blockchains. Is that a far off risk? Is that something that people should be taking seriously right now? What's your take on that as we're having this conversation around stolen funds?
For today, the reality is that North Korea is an ever-present threat. I think I'd like to think more on what's happening right now, which is that the North Korean regime is going to continue attempting to identify vulnerabilities in institutions and take these large sums of crypto. I mean, when we're talking about the $1.5 billion hack this year, it was the largest one of all time. And North Korea is responsible for over $6.75 billion in stolen crypto since this has all started. And this is the ever-present threat, and solving security issues today is the most important thing. I think quantum computing, we can cross that road and bridge when we get there.
So if we're talking about more immediate, as we head into 2026, what should the industry be most diligent about? What are the trends that you're starting to see in the data that maybe could play a bigger role in the year ahead? Is it still the North Korea threat, as you're mentioning there? Is there something else that people aren't maybe paying attention to? What are you watching?
North Korea is absolutely an always ever-present threat. But another aspect that we're seeing is the use of cryptocurrency by nation states. And we have seen Russia create a ruble-backed stablecoin that has facilitated well over $80 billion in transactions in under a year in activity. We're seeing Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps facilitating transactions via cryptocurrency. And in just the last year alone, from sanctions events from the US government nearly $2 billion worth of wallets related to that activity. And that's purchasing commodities and weapons from places like Russia. So I think the growing usage of cryptocurrency by nation states is a critically important thing to monitor going into 2020.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World this week. We're back again on Monday, and we'll see you then.